Imagine an animal the size of a small dog. Not a lion, not a bear, something you could pick up in your arms, if you were foolish enough to try. Now imagine that this little creature gets bitten in the face by a cobra, one of the deadliest snakes on Earth. Enough venom to kill a grown man in under an hour. The animal stumbles, its legs give out, it collapses onto its side, completely still. To anyone watching, it looks dead. And then, a couple of hours later, it wakes up. It shakes off the venom like a bad dream, stands back up, walks over to the very snake that just bit it, and finishes eating it. This is the honey badger, and by the time this video is over, you're going to understand why scientists, soldiers, and safari guides all quietly agree on one thing. Pound for pound, this may be the toughest, most fearless animal alive on the planet today. Because survival, for the honey badger, isn't about being the biggest or the fastest. It's about being absolutely impossible to kill. So stay with me, because how this animal pulls that off is one of the strangest survival stories in all of nature. Let's start with the reputation, because it's real. The honey badger, also called the Ratel, has been officially recognized as one of the most fearless creatures on Earth. Out in the wild, animals live by a simple rule. Know your place. A creature this small should run from lions. It should flee from leopards. It should give hyenas a very wide berth. The honey badger did not get that memo. It will stand its ground against animals 10, 20, even 30 times its size. There are countless accounts from across Africa of honey badgers charging at lions, chasing off leopards, and refusing to back down from a whole pack of hyenas. Not because it's stupid, because it has learned over millions of years that it can win. So how? How does a 20-pound animal survive a world full of things that should eat it in one bite? The answer starts with its skin, and this is where the honey badger becomes something out of a comic book. The skin of a honey badger is thick, rubbery, and unbelievably tough. And here's the genius part. It's loose, very loose. It hangs around the animal's body almost like an oversized coat. Now think about what that means in a fight. When a predator grabs a normal animal by the back of the neck, it's over. The animal is pinned. But when something grabs a honey badger, the badger simply twists around inside its own skin and turns to face its attacker. Teeth first, claws first. Picture that for a second. A leopard clamps down on a honey badger, thinking it's won, and instead of going limp, the badger rotates around inside its loose hide and sinks its claws into the leopard's face. Predators learn that lesson exactly once. That tough skin does something else too. It's remarkably resistant to things that would destroy other animals. Bee stings barely get through it. Porcupine quills struggle to pierce it. Even the fangs of many snakes can't reach deep enough to matter. The honey badger walks through hazards that would kill almost anything else, and it barely flinches. But skin is just the armor. Now let's talk about the weapons. On its front paws, the honey badger carries long, powerful claws, built like curved digging blades. These claws let it tear open the rock-hard earth, rip apart rotting logs, and dig a burrow to safety in minutes. Very few predators can dig fast enough to follow. If a fight is going badly, the honey badger can literally vanish into the ground before your eyes. And its jaws are built to crush. This animal can bite through the shell of a tortoise. It can crack open bones. When it locks on, it does not let go. So even though it's small, everything about the honey badger is built for one purpose: to hit far, far above its weight. Now we get to the part that sounds like pure fantasy: the venom. The honey badger is one of the very few animals on Earth that hunts venomous snakes on purpose: cobras, puff adders. Some of the most lethal serpents in Africa and Asia are, to a honey badger, simply lunch. And yes, sometimes the snake bites first. Sometimes the badger takes a full dose of venom right to the face. And here's what happens. The honey badger goes down. It shakes, it stiffens, it drops into what looks exactly like death. For a normal predator, That would be the end. But the honey badger has an astonishing tolerance to venom that would kill nearly anything its size. So instead of dying, it simply waits it out. Its body rides through the poison, and then, after a rest that can last a couple of hours, it wakes up, groggy but very much alive, and calmly goes back to eating the snake it was killing before it got interrupted. Think about how extraordinary that is. This animal has essentially turned one of nature's ultimate weapons, deadly venom, into a minor inconvenience. Something that costs it an afternoon nap. But being tough is only half of survival. The other half is being smart, and the honey badger might just be the cleverest animal you've never taken seriously. There's a famous honey badger who lived at a wildlife rehabilitation center in South Africa. His keepers tried everything to keep him in his enclosure, and he escaped from all of it. When they raised the walls, he learned to roll balls of mud, stack them into a pile, and climb up and over. When they took away anything he could climb, he moved rocks and branches to build himself a ladder. He figured out how to open gate latches. He used tools. Time after time, he outsmarted the very humans trying to contain him. His keepers eventually admitted something remarkable. They had never met an animal that solved problems the way he did. That's the honey badger's secret weapon that most people miss. It's not just fearless. It's a thinker. It watches, it learns, it remembers. In the wild, that intelligence means it can find food where other animals starve, break into places others can't, and get out of trouble that would trap anything else. And speaking of food, the honey badger will eat almost anything. Snakes, rodents, insects, scorpions, birds, eggs, roots, berries, small reptiles, and grubs dug out of the dirt. This "I'll eat whatever's available" approach is a huge survival advantage. Picky animals struggle when their favorite food disappears. The honey badger never has that problem. Drought, scarcity, a bad season, it just switches to whatever else is around and keeps going. But of course, there's one food this animal is named for: honey, or, more precisely, the fat, protein-rich bee larvae hidden deep inside a hive. The honey badger craves them, and it will take thousands of furious bee stings to get to them. That thick skin means most of those stings never even land. It simply tears the hive apart and eats while an entire swarm rages around it, completely unbothered. And there's a legend attached to this, one of the most famous partnerships in all of nature. There's a small bird called the honey guide, and the old story says it will actually lead a honey badger straight to a hidden beehive. The bird finds the hive but can't break in. The badger can break in but has trouble finding hives. So, the tale goes, they team up. The bird guides, the badger smashes it open, and both get a meal. Now, scientists still debate how often this really happens between the bird and the badger. But the honey guide absolutely does this with humans in some parts of Africa, genuinely leading people to wild bee nests. It's one of the only known cases on Earth of a wild bird teaming up with another species to hunt. And whether or not the badger is truly part of that story, it tells you something about this animal. It's woven right into the legends of the wild. So, let's zoom out. How does the honey badger actually live day to day? It's mostly a loner. Honey badgers roam huge territories, often covering miles and miles in a single night in search of food. They're tireless walkers, constantly on the move, nose to the ground, digging, sniffing, investigating every hole and crack for a meal. They dig their own burrows to sleep in, or simply take over one that another animal made, usually without asking. And their range is enormous. You'll find honey badgers across most of Africa, through the Middle East, and into India and Southwest Asia. Deserts, grasslands, forests, mountains. This animal adapts to nearly all of it. And that in the end is the real answer to how the honey badger survives. It's not one single superpower, it's the whole package. Armor-like skin that shrugs off teeth and stings, claws and jaws that punch above their weight. A body that laughs at venom. A brain that solves problems most animals can't even understand. A stomach that accepts almost any food. And a spirit, a stubborn, fearless refusal to ever back down, that makes bigger, stronger predators decide it's simply not worth the fight. The honey badger doesn't survive because the world is easy on it. It survives because it has turned itself into a creature that the world can't get rid of. It gets bitten, stung, clawed, and cornered, and it just keeps going. Again and again and again. So the next time you think toughness is about size, remember this little animal, out there in the dark right now, walking alone across the desert. Small enough to hold, fearless enough to fight a lion, and nearly impossible to kill. Because in the great brutal contest of survival, the honey badger figured out the ultimate cheat code. Don't be the biggest, don't be the fastest, just be the one that absolutely refuses to die.